Well, Billy came from a group of five school in Louisiana, and Sumrall came from a group of five school in Louisiana. Yeah, sure. But frankly, that's where the comparisons end. The comparisons end right then and there. There's no other real comparison between Billy Napier and John Sumrall that I see, good, bad, or otherwise. And he does have an altogether different energy than what Billy has. And look, if it would have worked for Billy Napier, the whole narrative would be different, right? It was this guy's stoic, calm, cool, collected on the sideline. The whole stadium could be on fire around him, and Billy would just be standing on the sideline with that glazed look in his eye. But it wouldn't be glazed look; it would be composed look, right? We know how these narratives form, but it didn't work, and so it was glazed look, and it was, this guy's got no pizzazz, no energy, no riz.
Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Meldon Law Studios at the Hacienda. Okay, and welcome into another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging and coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at the Dooley Dome. Good show for you today. Blake Toppmeyer is going to join us from USA Today. He is the SEC columnist. He knows everything about the SEC. You're always, like, now that Tony Barnhart's retired, you kind of look for a guy like that who really knows the conference and knows everybody. So we got a lot of subjects to talk to him about, including expansion and stuff like that. Coach Spurrier Monday, Adam Sparks on next Thursday to talk about Tennessee. As we said, Jesse Palmer is going to be on in June. We'll let you know. I think it's the 10th. I should have probably looked it up, but anyway, it'll be a lot of fun. We're going to get some great guests coming forward and try to get through the summer months, which they are the dog days, as we know. Nowhere more so than Gainesville, where it's hotter than hell, and it's there's no sports going on once you get through all the softball, the golf, and everything like that. So anyway, let us go ahead and move on to our Money Metals starting five. MoneyMetals.com is your home for gold and silver purchases, one of the largest distributors in all the United States. 2 Gator grads are running it, and you can reach them at 1-800-800-1865 or at MoneyMetals.com. Okay, let's start off with baseball, which is interesting in that by the time most of you listen to this, Florida will have already played another game. I thought it was going to be perfect because they were going to play an 8 o'clock game, but now the game has been moved up, for those of you who don't know, to 4:30, 4:30-ish, because there's another game before it. I guess bad weather's coming in tonight, so they want to get those 2 games today out of the way. But Florida will play Alabama. We'll talk about that. But Florida winning and beating Vanderbilt, not only beating Vanderbilt, and I don't think there was any, Sully is a competitor, we know that, but I don't think it was like, I want to beat Vandy and keep them out of the NCAA tournament. I don't think that. I think in the back of his mind, there might have been a little bit of that, but he's such good friends with Corbin that, they didn't even see each other. He talked about it afterwards. They didn't even see each other this year because they didn't play. So now they did play, and Florida handled them. What they were throwing up there wasn't much. They were kind of low on pitching, and it's been that way for them all year. They got a very young team this year, Vanderbilt. But I do, unless some miracle happens and everybody, I can't even think of a way Vanderbilt gets in. If you look at their RPI, you would understand. It's terrible. It's in the 70s. They played a terrible non-conference schedule, and that's what it's showing up. But by beating them, I think that pretty much eliminates Vanderbilt completely. And the big question is going to be Kentucky now, because Vanderbilt beat Kentucky in the tournament. I think Kentucky's a bubble team, man. And there's some people have them in, some people have them out. But the point is, Florida got that win. And the interesting thing to me, in fact, I was surprised that he started Aiden King in this game. Now, Aiden King did have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 4 days rest. It's not, or Tuesday, no, 5 days rest, which is plenty of rest, especially in the postseason. But the reason, and Sully talked about it, the biggest reason he did is, look, we want to be a top 8 seed. Right now, they're right there. They're 9 probably. I think a lot of people have them as a 9, and that would mean you'd play an 8, who will probably be another SEC team, whether it's A&M or Auburn or something like that. I will have to wait and see that, and that'll be on Monday. We'll find out for sure where Florida's going. But again, that's another win that'll help you down the road. Your RPI is 10. I mean, you're going to host. It's just a matter of whether you can win enough games to host multiple games. Now, remember, back when I can't remember, a week ago, I was talking about how the only way Florida would host, which would be host and then host a super regional. Obviously, they have to win the regional, but would be that they would probably have to maybe sweep LSU and then win the tournament. I don't think it's that much anymore. I think they need to win this game today. Okay, and that Liam Peterson's going to throw. But if they win that game against a quality Alabama team, who I think swept them earlier in the season. By the way, and they're going to face, and I'm sure that they are happy to face them because it was embarrassing the last time. They're going to face Tyler Fay, who no-hit Florida earlier in the season in Tuscaloosa. They'll have home crowd advantage. So this is what the FCC does. They put everything in Alabama these days, other than basketball, but baseball and softball now are going to be in Alabama. So make sure Alabama fans show up. Oh, they'll be great. It'll be great. Look, the offices are in Alabama. That's where things are going to be. But anyway, certainly the Sully decision was, I think, the good one. And when I got more into the game, I got to be honest with you, I played 9 holes yesterday. I had the radio on, listened to Jeff doing the game. And it was very distracting because it was a tough game. Florida gets up 3-0. You're kind of they strand a bunch of runners, and then they end up getting tied. And probably that's a decision I would question that he might have left them in 2 batters too long. He was up near, but he said 75 pitches is the max, and I think he wanted to try to get that out of him. But it obviously third time through the lineup, he struggled a little bit. Aiden King, SEC Pitcher of the Year. But that was a good move on his part to start him, and certainly good for Florida to get that win. Again, they got Alabama today. The game is at 4:30, and we'll talk about the TV when we get to the swamp games of the weekend. But it'll be interesting to see if Florida can get this win. I think it's going to be hard to keep them out of hosting because they're finishing strong at the right time, obviously. You want to, even though they're, remember when it used to be the last 10 in basketball, and then they said, nah, it's the whole body of work. Well, that's the problem with Florida. That's the reason if they don't get to host a super regional, the problem is the body of work is weird. As you know, we've talked about that. It is a weird body of work. Lose to JU, sweep LSU. It's just a strange body of work, but it's still a very good body of work, and it's worthy of being considered for one of the top 8 seeds, and we'll see how it goes. We'll find that out Monday, but I think a win today would be a major step in that right direction. Okay, that is our base look at baseball today. Let's go to softball, which, look, I gave you kind of a scouting report on Texas Tech earlier in the week on Monday. And let's go. Let's go. This is what you got to do. You got to go beat a really good team in a super regional to get to Oklahoma City. Are they capable of it? I predicted they won't. I predicted that before the regional started. I thought it's not a good matchup for Florida, and they had been a little shaky down the stretch. Now, certainly they played well in the regional, but those teams weren't very good. So this is a different team, as we talked about. They're 4th in the nation in batting average, 2nd in ERA. They got 2 great pitchers. Florida's got 1. I don't see Florida coming through it, but I hope they do. I'm going to be rooting for them. In fact, Karen and I were talking about going, so I priced the tickets, and you can get in for $198, not $1.98, as you probably could. Remember when softball used to be free? Now, to go to a super regional, It's $198 worth of tickets. So I'm like, I wouldn't spend $198 to go to a Gator football game, to be honest with you. I might if it was a big game and, but hey, that's why TV was invented. But yeah, I'm not going to go, but I will be rooting from home very hard. I hope Tim Walton can get them there. And I would love to have Tim Walton call me up and go, hey, dude, you said we weren't going to make it to Oklahoma City. Well, I'm calling you from Bricktown right now. That'd be great. I would love that. And we'll see what happens. But it's time, man. It's time to, what the phrase you use, nut cutting time. But it is certainly a huge series and a big part of it. And it actually starts today. The Super Regionals. I think Georgia and Tennessee play today, and there's another game. Nebraska, I think, is playing tonight. So hey, it's good stuff to watch. I like softball. If you don't like softball, I get it. It's no problem. I kind of became a softball fan as much because of Tim Walton and because I get to go to all those College World Series out there in Oklahoma City, and because I love Oklahoma City, Bricktown area is unbelievable. So we'll see how that all goes. But I think it's going to be good. I think it'll be fun. I think it's going to be real exciting, and I wouldn't be surprised if I'm sitting there and I have this ritual when games get tight, I get out of that recliner and I just start standing up and walking, pacing in my little room here. Anyway, all right. Let's move along to number 3 on our moneymedals.com starting 5, and that would be recruiting season. I did a thing for Patreon, and if you are not a member, you can go become a member. It's $5 a month. I mean, it's cheap, really. And we give away a bunch of them that Leonardo's of Millhopper donates to us. And he spends some money on them, and we donate them. We try to send them out to as many people as possible. But anyway, this is the thing I did. The 5 reasons, I do these fivesomes, the 5 reasons why Florida is doing really well in recruiting. And so I got to be truly honest. I leaned on my friend Zach Albaverdi to kind of pick his brain a little bit on stuff that I thought, and that he kind of got me going the right direction. Like Dave Caldwell is a part of this because he's doing all the negotiations and taking that burden off of them. But they just keep hitting balls over the wall. I mean, that's all I can say. I mean, the latest, the kid Elias Pearl, wide receiver, 4-star. Their class now, it depends on where you look. Now they're 4 if you go by, I think it's 24/7, and they're 8 if you go by On3. On3 does it on average, which to me is the best one, because the other one does it just on bulk. And either way, Florida is having a top 10 recruiting class. Now, other teams are going to start, but the sense of urgency that Florida has shown, and they are being very aggressive and going after these guys. I made this point. Maxwell Hiller committed in April. When's the last time a 5-star offensive lineman committed in April? You always wait till signing day, but April of when you're going into your senior year, technically it was his junior year. So they're doing that, but I do think, and we've talked about this before, I think the boosters are in love with John Summerall, much in the way I think most of the Gator Nation is. Now, he is 0-0, and that's one reason it's easy to fall in love with him, but his personality is coming through, and his personality is an asset for Florida's recruiting. There's no doubt about it. He's got great recruiters on the staff. Phil Troutwine is doing a heck of a job. Harris, there's so many good recruiters on the staff, and they know they got to get players in here. They want to do well in the portal too, but it's harder in the portal when you're trying to retain talent, trying to recruit talent, and you haven't won. You haven't won many, I'm sorry, you can say he wins everywhere he goes, like Signetti said, and it turned out he did. But you win at Troy, you win at Tulane, doesn't mean you win at Florida. We all know that. I have total confidence in what he's doing. But I want to see games, and see what he does in a big game. I'll start with the third game of the year at Auburn. I think we'll walk away from that going, all right, this guy knows what he's doing, or we may come away going, okay, he may be in a little over his head. I don't think he's in over his head. I think he's built for the job, like he said. I think it's going to be fine. I have said, people ask me all the time. In fact, I got asked twice at the gym the other day what I think about him and what I think about this season. And I go, look, I think he's great. I think he's tremendous. What I think about this season is not positive, though. I just think their offensive line is going to be a real issue, and there's going to be a getting to know you process. I think by year two, with the recruits he's bringing in, with the guys he's trying to retain, if he can just get bowl eligible and go to a bowl, and I think they'll by year two, I think they can start really turning it around. Right now, they're trying to turn it around, but all they're really doing is plugging some leaks and trying to get better at doing everything. But I'm just so impressed with what they're doing in recruiting. Let's go to number 4 on our Money Medals starting 5, and it is, of course, golf, because you knew I was going to talk golf today because of what the Florida golf team did this week out in Columbus, Ohio. Now, I've been there, the Scarlet Course. I actually, I think it's kind of an interesting story. This is the way newspapers were spending money back in the old days, because Robert Floyd and Josh McCumber were on the Florida team. So two kind of famous bloodlines. Robert, of course, Ray Floyd's son. Josh was Mark McCumber's nephew, and I still talk to Josh every once in a while. But anyway, they sent me all the way to Columbus for the first golf tournament of the year. Believe it or not, I'm like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here. But anyway, it rained out. I remember watching the Cordell Stewart. I think I'm right. Cordell Stewart to Westbrook Hail Mary pass in the lobby of the pro shop at Nicholas's course, and it was kind of cool to be there. Anyway, while I was there, I went over to Ohio State was playing Houston in football, so I got a press pass and went to the game. Kim Helton was the AD there. Talked to him for a while, did a story on him. I got as much out of that trip as I could. Anyway, these guys got way more out of their trip because they went in and just destroyed the field. Again, not a lot of birdies here because it's a hard course. I think the winning score was, and it was by Luke Poulter, was even par. But Florida swept and won by 24. I know FSU snuck in at the bottom, so they will qualify for the Nationals, and they beat them by 31, I think, something like that. Anyway, really, Florida's going to go in as a number 2 seed. It's out in Carlsbad. That's now become like the Omaha and Oklahoma City and Atlanta for football, although that may be going away. Carlsbad is where they're having all these tournaments. Anyway, that starts May 29th, but really proud of the way they competed and played and did a good job. And, sometimes I remember, I want to say it was JC's first year, it might have been his second, where they went to the first regional and didn't get out of it and just had one of those bad days. We all have them. I have them on every 9 holes I play. I have good shots, bad shots, I'm very inconsistent. These guys are not, and I'm proud of them. Good job by the Florida men's golf team. May 29th, they will start playing the NCAA tournament. All right. Let's finally go to number 5 on our Money Medals starting 5, and that is that Jason Kidd got fired yesterday. Mutual agreement is what they said. I've heard about. Anytime somebody says mutual agreement, that I just kind of chuckle to myself, because I had a coach here at Florida who got fired, and he didn't want his kids to read in the paper he was fired, so they agreed to make it a mutual agreement, and that he was stepping away and everything, and told me that, and but he also said, I got fired, yeah. He said, but can you keep that out of the headline? I'm like, I don't write the headlines. So, I don't know. I can't remember whether we did or not. Anyway, he was a good man. Anyway, so the Jason Kidd getting let go by the Dallas Mavericks, and I mean, you got Cooper Flagg there, and you got some other players. There's something to work with. And immediately, my first thought was, we haven't heard from Billy in a while, Billy Donovan, who everybody assumed was getting the Magic job. Now this is open, and maybe this is the job he wants. I did see his name connected to it, but there's assistants also that have been connected to it. I got to be honest with you. And I'm not disparaging Billy or Jason Kidd or anybody else. I just don't think being having a great head coach in the NBA is the reason you win. I think you can be the reason you lose if you have a really bad one, but I don't think you win. You win because of players. We know that. I mean, you got a 2-time MVP for OKC. Came through last night. They won. And guess what? Had nothing to do with coaching. Now, you can coach and you can put some strategies in, but we watch these games, and I watch a lot of the Bulls games this year just to see Billy. You never showed Billy because Billy just standing there watching it, And then you get him in the huddle and you say, okay, we're going to do this. So I'm not saying there's no coaching element to it. I'm just saying we'll see. But I am curious to see what Billy's going to do. There is. I don't want to say it's speculation because I've heard this. He may just come back here and take care of his mom and work on some things and sit out a year. So we'll see. But now there's 2 pretty good openings with some quality young players, and we'll see how that all works out. All right. We'll take a break. And when we come back, we'll be joined by Blake Toppmeyer. We'll talk a lot of SEC college football with him. We'll play yes, no way, or maybe with him. And we will have a good time. We always do here on another Dooley Noted podcast, presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Give me 60 seconds and I'll show you why you should be buying silver and how to get started. Recent price spikes in groceries, healthcare, gasoline, steel, and lumber tell the story of inflation, as do raging bull markets and equities in housing. As the reality of all this inflation sinks in, investors will be acting quickly to diversify and protect themselves, their families, and their assets. That's why we're offering our Silver Starter Kit to help you get started in holding tangible wealth. This mix of our most recommended forms of silver includes 9 silver coins, totaling 4 troy ounces of fine silver. These pure silver coins have a low bid-ask spread, the difference between the price you pay to buy and the price you receive to sell. Low transaction costs are one reason Investopedia calls Money Metals the best dealer in America. Don't waste any more time. Start protecting your savings today with physical precious metals at moneymetals.com/go.
Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. You know about the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in on Fridays for Nana's Fish Nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, 2 things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
and our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Okay, welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. It is a great pleasure to bring on my friend Blake Toppmeyer, of course, from USA Today. You read all of his great college football stuff, especially SEC stuff. The SEC is the weirdest conference in the world, and it just feels like there are so many stories going around. I can't imagine what it's going to be like next week in Destin.
Yeah, it's interesting, Pat. A lot of mudslinging, as you know, in recent weeks. Some of that content appearing at USA Today. But, sometimes these things reach a fever pitch, as you know, at the spring meetings. At other times, I think spring meetings is when everybody sort of retreats to their corner, takes a little intermission. Greg Sankey says, "Hey guys, we don't need to be throwing elbows once we get into the room, the main room, and the press conferences start." So we'll see. I mean, I have to think Steve Sarkisian is going to be asked about his basket weaving comments when talking about the academic curriculum at Ole Miss. That got a lot of buzz. Of course, Lane Kiffin has been a constant in the headlines for 2 weeks and now. He's going to be a major topic, and I think the biggest topic though is the college football playoff. And the Big Ten has the SEC sort of backed into a corner. The Big Ten got to go first with their spring meetings. Of course, they won 3 national titles in a row, and so they hold the cards. And they say the only cards are 12 teams or 24 teams. They say those are the 2 choices. And I don't think the SEC is going to take a final vote on the matter at spring meetings, but I do think that could be topic number 1.
Well, and that's there's 2 things I want to ask about that. One is that I know you've talked about this. When, like in a perfect world, Greg Sankey would stand up there and go, "Hey, quit fighting with each other. This is ridiculous. We're all in this together. We're trying to make things work. You guys sniping at each other, like Mike Slive used to do, and sometimes get very, very loud about it." But as you said, I'm not sure how much power Greg Sankey has now, because he's got them to the 9-game schedule without getting what they wanted in terms of access to the playoff. So I don't know where he stands, because he's got ads coming out and saying, "No, I'd like to see 24."
Yeah, I can tell you this. There is serious frustration within the SEC that the conference went to a 9-game schedule and that Greg Sankey was unable to deliver an expanded playoff for this season. I think there was the widespread thought that if the SEC members went along with Sankey's desires for a 9-game conference schedule, it's something Sankey's wanted for many years, and he finally got across the finish line last year, goes into effect this year. I think there was a widespread thought within the SEC that if they went for the 9-game schedule, that Sankey would be able to deliver an expanded playoff this season. He didn't. And I think there's a lot of buyer's remorse going on, not at every institution, but at a lot of institutions, and in a lot of coaches' offices in particular. There's serious buyer's remorse going on about that 9-game schedule, and I think that's led to some frustrations with the commissioner. Now, as we know, the commissioner is not the czar of the college football playoff. He can't speak a 16-team playoff into existence. That's the checks and balances of this nature, where the SEC and the Big Ten basically have shared control over playoff expansion, and expansion can't occur without both conferences agreeing to the number and to the format. But you're absolutely right, Pat. There's as much frustration, I think, with the commissioner as I've detected in more than, basically I've been covering the SEC as long as Greg Sankey's been commissioner. So as long as he's been commissioner, this is as much frustration with him and his leadership as I've ever detected. And I don't know that he's at fault for all of that. Again, he can't wave a wand and create a 16-team playoff, but undeniably, stakeholders in this conference feel like they were pushed along to 9 games, and they thought they were going to get a bigger playoff at the end of it. That hasn't happened yet.
The second question, and maybe you can explain this, I've seen different people try to explain it in different ways, is why Greg is so hell-bent on 16. We know why the Big Ten wants 24, but why is he doesn't want to go to 24?
I think Greg Sankey represents multiple interests. First and foremost, obviously, the SEC. But what he has to keep in mind as the representative of the SEC is that the SEC's exclusive media partner is ESPN. That's who pays the bills. That's who writes the checks. That's who makes this whole thing work. Yes, there's ticket sales and donors and all that other stuff, but what's the big fuel behind the engine here? It's media rights money.
Yeah.
And the SEC has hitched its wagon entirely to ESPN. It's its exclusive media rights partner. Well, ESPN is also the exclusive media rights holder of the college football playoff. If this playoff expands beyond 14 teams, that opens it up for other media entities, such as Fox, the media partner of the Big Ten, to bid on it and to get a piece of the pie. In other words, if this goes to 24 teams, or 20 teams, or whatever, 24 is the number that the Big Ten. So let's stay there. If this goes to 24 teams, this may not wind up with the SEC or with ESPN being the exclusive rights holder of the college football playoff, and that's what ESPN wants. ESPN wants a 16-team playoff or smaller. That would protect it having a stranglehold on the playoff. So I think there's multiple things here. I think Greg Sankey wants the SEC championship game to continue. He knows that's a cash cow for the conference. I mean, he can talk about how it's a great game and history and all that, but let's be honest, it's a cash cow for the conference. Yeah, and all that money goes into the SEC's pockets, right? They're not sharing that with the Big Ten. They're not sharing that money with the ACC. And Greg Sankey knows that in a 24-team playoff, there's probably not room for an SEC championship game anymore. So that's one reason to fight for 16. The other is because that's what the SEC's media partner wants in ESPN. And I also think that Greg Sankey probably realizes that if the playoff goes to 16 and not 24, who's going to get those extra bids? If you look at the past couple seasons, a 16-team playoff would have helped the SEC one heck of a lot more than it would have helped the Big Ten. Now, maybe that's a small sample size, but I think there's some meat to that theory, that 16 helps the SEC more. 24, that's helping the 8-4 Iowas of the world just as much as it's helping the SEC.
It's funny to think, when you think about it, how many times, well, I think Spurrier would have been in a 24-team playoff all of the 12 years he was there, and 3 times in South Carolina. But Dan Mullen, would have been in 3. McElwain would have been in a couple. Muschamp would have obviously been in 1. So maybe it wouldn't have been, Napier I don't think would have been in any. But that's a whole other story. But it is going to be interesting. I want to talk some football, actual football, because we are coming up to the time where guys got to get in shape. Because I'm a big believer you don't get in shape during the season. Okay, you got to get in shape before the season. But we're pretty much know what everybody's got, and we're not 100% sure on who the quarterback. But is there a dark horse in the SEC that you can see coming out of nowhere? I mean, I personally don't think it would be Florida, just because I don't trust their offensive line situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to go really, really dark horse. Kentucky, the way they flipped their roster, I don't know if it's going to work, but Kentucky's going to look a lot different this year than what they looked last year. I mean, that's going to happen with any coaching change, right? But you look at how hard Kentucky went into the portal with new coach Will Stein. They overhauled the whole thing, right? And I think they got some talent too. They signed a top 10 transfer class. Now, how does that all come together? I don't know. We've seen teams in the past sign big transfer classes bust. Everybody thinks just because it worked, for Lane Kiffin and it worked for Curt Cignetti, that if you sign a bunch of transfers, you're going to make the college football playoff. Well, no, there's other stories of teams that sign a bunch of transfers and, the whole thing looks terrible. So I don't know that maybe this won't work, but if you want to get really spicy, I think Kentucky could be that dark horse, not a playoff dark horse, but a make some noise. They've been left for dead, at the end of the Mark Stoops tenure anyway. There were some highs, but at the end it was low. Maybe there's a narrative where Kentucky's a thorn in the side this year. I mean, their quarterback, Kenny Minchie, right? Like this time last year, he was legitimately in the hunt to be the starting quarterback at Notre Dame. Now, CJ Carr won the job. I don't think that was a big surprise in the end, but Minchie was in it. So now he's in line to be the quarterback at Kentucky. And when you look at Will Stein, the coach there, who are his last three quarterbacks? Now, he was at Oregon, but the last three quarterbacks he worked with, Dante Moore, Dylan Gabriel, and Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Three straight years in a row. This guy's got a good touch with quarterbacks. Again, I'm not saying Kentucky to the playoff, but you want a sleeper? Kentucky's hanging out over there in the corner with a much different looking team than they had at the end of the Mark Stoops era.
Yeah, and of course they get Florida at home for the second straight year, and they've kind of owned Florida the last 5 years, which is another reason Sleepy Billy has been told to leave. But I did want to talk to you about Sumrall, and I wrote a little thing about this on my Patreon site, but about his energy and how well they're doing in recruiting. And that tells me two things. One, new coach, new energy, it's real. Bet anybody who's been around him believes that he's making all that. But he's also rallied the boosters and made them say, "Hey, we're going to have to spend X. Or you want to be back? You want to wake the beast? We can do it. You got to spend the money. It's the way of the world now."
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's going to be no in this landscape. It's hard to envision there being much path to success without cash being in the war chest. So that's a reality. To your point about new energy, I think Florida had to have that, right? Anytime you fire a coach who was, especially one who was as unsuccessful as Napier was in that tenure, you have to, your new hire has to be the opposite of that. Now, I know people could say, and even Sumrall's made this point of, well, Billy came from a group of five school in Louisiana, and Sumrall came from a group of five school in Louisiana. Yeah, sure. But frankly, that's where the comparisons end. The comparisons end right then and there. There's no other real comparison between Billy Napier and John Sumrall that I see, good, bad, or otherwise. And he does have an altogether different energy than what Billy has. And look, if it would have worked for Billy Napier, the whole narrative would be different, right? It was this guy's stoic, calm, cool, collected on the sideline. You know, the whole stadium could be on fire around him, and Billy would just be standing on the sideline with that glazed look in his eye. But it wouldn't be glazed look; it would be composed look, right? We know how these narratives form, but it didn't work, and so it was glazed look, and it was, you know, this guy's got no pizzazz, no energy, no riz. What they say today, right? That's what some. You've heard that one, right, Pat?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, that's what Sumrall has, right? And so Florida fans, I think, naturally are going to be craving that. I think Florida fans, as you know better than anybody, they want some of that anyway. I've always thought Florida's a school; their fan base badly wants to win. They also want to be entertained, and there wasn't really a less entertaining program in the SEC the last 4 years than Florida. They weren't just bad. They were like boring and bad. They were ugly and bad. It was an eyesore. Now they got some energy. Are they going to be a bunch better? I don't know, but it does look and sound and feel different, and Florida needed that.
Blake Toppmeyer from USA Today coming to us on the Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line. Yeah, they definitely needed that. I totally agree with you on that. I don't know, whether we're going to, I mean, this could be the last SEC game, right? We don't know if it is or not. And I know we don't know until all the decisions come down. But, I hate to see it go away, but I certainly understand it if it has to. And I'm fine. I'm okay. Like most of the media guys that I read and don't want a 2014 playoff. My thing is, the more games, the better. I'm good with it. And I don't believe in the theory that it cheapens the regular season, because it makes the regular season more significant for more teams. Like, in other words, if you got 24 teams that can get in, that means you got 40 that have a chance.
Yeah, my pushback on that, Pat, is I think it shifts the focus of the games that matter. It shifts the focus of the 9-1 team playing the 8-2 team. And if the 8-2 team loses in a 12-team playoff, late in the regular season, they're out. So your focus is on those top 15 teams. I think the focus, you go to 24, and the biggest game on a given Saturday could be the two 6-3 teams that are playing, because they're going to be the ones fighting for the playoff spot. If you're 9-1, at that point you're good. Like their fans are still going to watch. Maybe if it's a rivalry game, they're still going to watch. But really, the game with playoff implications becomes the two 6-3 teams. For me personally, that's not what I want. That's not what I like. And I do think the bigger you make it, you do lower some of the stakes of the season. I point to college basketball, right? If you're watching college basketball in November, it's because you really like college basketball. And hey, I watched some college basketball in November, so no harm if that's you. But if you're watching college basketball in November, you're either a college basketball junkie or you're a gambling junkie or both, right? Because it is a tournament sport. Yeah, possibly the latter. It is a tournament sport. It all revolves around March. And now that it's at 76 teams, let's face it, you finish one or two games above 500, you're in the tournament. You really don't need to watch in December, February. Now, is that what football would become at a 24-team playoff? No, I don't think it's all the way there. But I do think it changes the nature of a sport where like every Saturday matters, every game is appointment viewing other than the FCS games, that type of stuff. And I think it reshifts the focus to, again, when those two 6-3 teams are playing, that is the most consequential game. It's the games involving the teams at the bottom of the top 25 rather than the top 10 teams that matter most. As for the SEC game, this is my thought on that. If you're going to have the game, it has to have stakes. That's my biggest argument against continuing these conference championship games. I was in the building for Georgia stomping a hole in Alabama's chest last year, winning by 3 touchdowns, leaving no doubt. And then the very next day, neither team moved even one spot in the college football playoff rankings. So that's my argument. Have them or don't, I don't really care. But if you're going to have them, they have to have stakes. They have to count. Because otherwise, they're just glorified exhibitions. When you have a game and Georgia wins by 3 touchdowns and then neither team moves even one spot in the rankings, you're telling everybody it's an exhibition. And I just don't think that can't be the future of that game.
I think it's lost some juice too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you were there for any of those Urban Meyer versus Saban games, but I mean, or even going even deeper than that, or not going up further back, but even going forward, the Alabama Georgia games that we saw. This Alabama Georgia game, you're just watching it, you're like, well, they're both in. I mean,
Right.
so it doesn't matter. But it's interesting. All right, it's time for us to play the game we love to play. Yes, no way, or maybe with Blake Toppmeyer, brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteaks, street dining done the right way. Go in there and say you listen to Blake on another duly noted podcast. You get free French fries with your order. I may be heading there for lunch after this. Now I got French fries in my head. All right, 3 questions. Yes, no way, or maybe, and you can expound on your answers all you want. Number 1, we will see an SEC title game without either Georgia or Alabama this year.
All right, so now I'm going to have to get clarification, Pat. That means neither one is going to be?
Either one.
Neither one. No, one of the two will be there.
I mean, I was thinking, you could end up with a Texas A&M game, I guess,
Oh, certainly plausible. Yeah, certainly plausible. What happens with Ole Miss this year? Trinidad Chambliss back, but Pete Golding, the coach, they're going to be preseason top 15. Lane Kiffin, LSU's opened the war chest for him. He's going to have a preseason top 25 team. Daunting schedule. So, yeah, certainly plausible. I just think as long as that SEC championship game is there, when Nick was coaching Alabama, it's like, okay, you'd pencil in one spot, right? And it didn't always happen, but like that's what you do in the preseason. You'd pencil in Alabama. It's like, okay, who's going to win the East? Is it going to be Florida this year? Is it going to be Georgia? Is it going to be Tennessee? So you felt like you had one spot penciled in, and now I feel like Kirby and Georgia have moved into that role where I'm just kind of penciling them in for one spot in that SEC championship game. Doesn't mean I think they'll go the furthest in the playoff or what have you, but as long as that game is there, and I know that game means something to Kirby still, and I think it means something to that particular team still because Kirby makes it mean something. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just sort of defaulting to putting Georgia into one of those two spots.
I'm kind of with you. And I mean, Alabama, you never know. And they do have the, so, but anyway, we'll see what happens. All right. Number 2, and this is related, and you kind of talked about it, but yeah, on Yes, No Way, or maybe brought to you by Big Mel's Cheesesteak. You liked it better when it was an East versus West.
Yes, I did. I did. And I didn't think I would. I didn't think I'd miss divisions. I didn't. You got a lot more perspective on this than I do, Pat. But like in my lifetime, I do not remember until now. I do not remember an SEC without divisions. My birthday predates divisions, but point being, I don't remember it. Right? Like my whole lifetime of watching the SEC until they just blew it up, it came in divisions. So I should be the guy that was like dying on the hill with divisions, because that's what I grew up with, right? Grew up in the 90s with Spurrier and Fulmer and all of that, battling it out in the East. But when the idea came to go away from divisions, I'm like, okay, I think that makes sense. The conference is so big now. Get one standings, cut down on the amount of time between when you play opponents. None of this like you go a decade between playing teams. But now that I see it in practice, I'm not one of those columnists that can't admit when they got something wrong, right? If I think I got it wrong, I got it wrong. Like I thought getting rid of divisions would be good. Seeing it play out, I don't like it. I wish the divisions were still in place. I really do.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It just made it more interesting. But hey, nobody's ever asked us what we thought.
We tell them anyway.
We tell them what they thought, but nobody's ever asking for it. At least in a commissioner's role. Number 3 on Yes, Nowhere, or maybe with Blake Toppmeyer, Brian Kelly will be coaching in 2027.
Maybe. I lean no, but maybe. He at least has to act like he's interested in coaching. Yeah, he wants to get that buyout, and there is a mitigation clause in there, so he at least has to act like he's interested. Is he legitimately interested in coaching again? I can't tell. He told me he was on one of our podcasts at USA Today a couple weeks ago, and I asked him directly about that. He told me if the situation is right, yes, he's interested in coaching again. Now, again, it behooves him to say such a thing due to the language in his contract. And so we all kind of, from time to time, try to apply a human lie detector test. And I'm like, is this guy telling the truth here? I came away thinking that, like, Brian Kelly is not totally opposed to coaching again. What I do think is, like, I don't know how much he wants to do the NIL rat race. The glad handing with donors and trying to build the biggest war chest possible. I don't really know that appeals to him. I don't think it brings out his best side. I don't think it taps into his abilities. If there was a situation where like all the NIL was already in great shape and it didn't really need him to be involved, I think he'd be interested. But why would that program need a coach, right? If you're in such great shape, you don't need a coach. Or
about that way, Verge Osbury said, the previous guy never glad handed anybody, never called in, and Kiffin is, all in on it.
Yeah, right, which is kind of strange to me thinking about Kiffin glad-handing with people. That's not really his personality. But I do see Lane texting donors. He's good in that space. So I could see him giving out his phone number to donors and firing off some texts. I do see that. But so yeah, with Brian, I say maybe lean toward no. I think I would like to see it, just personally. I think Brian Kelly maybe still has something to give to the profession. I think his opportunity to win a national championship has come and gone. That ship has sailed. I think his opportunity to coach in the South, that ship has sailed. He's not going to coach in the South again.
What about his family?
What about his family? Yeah, I don't think we're going to hear any more family. I think it's going to go back to being family. Here's a wild one for you, Pat. And look, Eli Drinkwitz he's got a good thing going there at Missouri. He's winning. But I've thought about that. Just sometimes we play these matchmaker things. It's a long off season, right? We play these matchmaker things. But I think like if Drink ever left Missouri, or if it ever went south on him, what about? I know it's SEC, but Missouri's a Midwest school, masquerading in the South. What about Brian Kelly there? You know, a guy that you could pencil in 9-3, 8-4, and the fan base is generally happy with it, right? They want to go to a playoff occasionally. They want to be in contention, but you're not getting fired for going 9-3. And I'm just throwing Missouri out as kind of a placeholder. But that's the type of school, Midwest situated school, where if you go 9-3, they're thinking, okay, good year. Wish we would have gone 10-2. Good year. Next year you go 8-4. They're thinking the same thing. What if Michigan State wouldn't have hired Pat Fitzgerald, right? Brian Kelly. I mean, you couldn't hire him straight off the scrap heap at LSU. That wasn't going to happen. You got to have some time for these things generally. But are you telling me that Pat Fitzgerald is so much better of a coach than Brian Kelly? Look, I know there were some highs at Northwestern. Certainly, that's a difficult place to win. I'm not trashing Pat Fitzgerald, but like that's the type of hire Michigan State just made, right? Veteran coach that you think, hey, our record is not going to be an embarrassment with this guy. We're going to have more winning seasons than losing seasons. If you're that type of program, you're located in the Midwest, I think you could do worse than Brian Kelly. Does Brian Kelly really want to get back in? I'm not sure.
Well, you know who else comes to mind? Kirk Ferentz isn't going to last forever. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, they go 9-3, and they're throwing parades. So
yeah, and you can't hire Mark Stoops now, right? That was always like the succession plan we all talked about. Like, well, that's all gone now. Mark Stoops. I'd much rather have Brian Kelly at this point, I think, than Mark Stoops. And you also wonder, like, these coaches that are humbled, that get fired, is that it for them? Are they just like, I got a monstrous buyout. I got more money than I'd ever need in 10 lifetimes. I'm going to my beach house. I'm good. Or does that relight a fire and you think, I might have 5 good years left and I'm going to prove that I'm not the guy who just got fired? I don't know. I don't know which one Brian Kelly is. And I think we'll see the next couple years which one he is. Is he willing to take one of those types of jobs? Still a good job, but not a great job. Not an LSU job, I should say. Or is he like, hey, I'm good here. If it were me, I'd be sipping tiki drinks in my pool and I'd be done. But
me too. I'd be doing the same thing. Blake, I know you got something else you got to jump on, and we'll let you go. And I do appreciate you taking all this time and talking to us. It's always great talking to you. And maybe I'll see you down. I'm thinking about going to SEC Media Days down in Tampa.
I like to hear that. Hey, good talking to you, Pat.
Yeah. So maybe I'll see you down there, buddy.
That sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll be back with more of another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios right after this break.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
All right, it may be a new year, but it doesn't mean you have to back off any of your goals as far as losing weight.
I know I've been working even harder on it, and of course I get an assist from BMI TeleMed. They help us out with our New Year's resolutions, even if I've already broken 2 of them. Not the food ones, though. Weight loss is your goal. Get with BMI TeleMed. They use GLP-1 medications, and they are individualized. And that's the great thing. I've been through this, and Charlie, just talking to him, it was so great to make him understand, and he understood what I was doing. It's not about just losing weight. It is about keeping it off. You know that. We're all excited about the new year, and we're going to lose weight. But when you lose it in the first month, then you got to keep going. BMI TeleMed is sensible. It's straightforward. It's affordable. No contracts or hidden costs. BMI TeleMed is donating $1 for every pound you lose to the Florida Victorious Foundation. So go Gators. I'll join the listeners on this podcast who've already lost over 600 pounds. Are you kidding me? I'm 60 of them right there. All right, contact BMI TeleMed today at 727-383-1677.
By now, you heard about the Florida Legends Experience in Gala, featuring Gator Heisman greats Tim Tebow, Danny Warfel, and Steve Spurrier, all in one place at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Imagine catching a pass or taking a handoff from a Heisman winner, all while supporting Isaiah 117 to help provide safe, loving homes for children in need. Then enjoy an unforgettable evening at the Gala, filled with great food and lasting memories. Don't miss this historic event. Find out how you and your business can get involved at FLLegends.com. That's FLLegends.com.
Okay, welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging and coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Appreciate Blake for being on, and always good talking to him. And let's go ahead and get to our third segment, which is all the fun stuff we do, starting with our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Hesser and Kipke, with over 50 years of combined legal experience in North and Central Florida, Hesser and Kipke is your place for bankruptcy, workers' compensation, and family law. Call or text Ken and Jennifer at 352-339-9920, Hesser and Kipke. Okay, number 1 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things is, this is a WTF moment, but I just don't understand what this tarps off thing is. Maybe somebody can explain it to me. Maybe it's because I don't run around with my shirt off all the time because I'm not young. But this is now becoming a thing in Major League Baseball. It was a thing in college baseball. It was a thing in soccer, where whole segments of the stadium, nobody's wearing their shirts. And I'm talking about guys, of course. Now, when we get to tarps off with the women, that'll be a different story. I'm not sure I'd be in favor of it because I would not watch any of the game. But what is going on? Why, I don't know why it is, and I got to be honest with you. I don't know. I can't explain it, but maybe I can, because young people have nice bodies, and they're ready to go, and but it's just so weird that everybody just wants to take their shirt off and watch the whole game with their shirt off. Now, we've seen that at NFL games in freezing weather where, I'm not going to wear a shirt and everything. I'm like, boy, I would be layered up. But anyway, look, the old man does not understand why everybody wants to run around with their shirt off. I used to, back in my day, we wore a shirt and it was to root on the team. And it said the name of the team on it, and we wore it the whole game, and we had lucky shirts. I guess you got lucky skin. All right, number 2 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things, flag football. We talked about this a little bit, but took another step towards becoming a NCAA sport, and they're hoping to have a title game coming up very soon. And Florida's got a really good flag football team. However, if it's an NCAA sport, you'd have to sponsor it. I would say flag football makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons, and one of them is how little you have to spend on equipment compared to softball, baseball, lacrosse, sports like that. And football is number 1, really. But anyway, I mean, we'll see if this happens. But the weird part to me is they're talking about having 40. You have to have 40 teams that are willing to sponsor it to make it an NCAA sport. I think that's the number. Are there really 40 teams out there that are willing to spend more money on their college sports? Because everybody, I mean, not everybody, but many teams, many athletics departments have rescinded their teams in different sports, and some have come back. Arkansas, I think men's and women's tennis they got rid of, but then somebody put money up, and I think one of them came. I can't remember all that. I don't pay that much attention to Arkansas tennis, to be honest with you. However, that said, it's kind of curious to me why teams would be adding sports, but flag football, especially for the women, has become a big deal. And if you can figure out a way to make it work, cool. And Florida, like I said, had a great year this year. They were our club team of the year, actually. So we'll see what happens there. But it is kind of a weird dynamic with college sports right now. The money is just going in every different direction. You don't know what's going on some of the time. Anyway, that is number 2. Number 3 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things, Aaron Rodgers said, yeah, this is it. This is my last year. Okay, the diva has spoken, and if he says it's his last year, that means it might be his last year. Who knows? He could light it up and he'd go, yeah, maybe I'll try one more. I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers guy, but I'll watch games he's playing in, that's for sure. But he did say that this is his last, this is it. And in a way, I'm kind of happy because at least we can just say, okay, no more of this. Who's going to be the quarterback for the Steelers or the Jets or whoever he was playing for, or the Packers. So that finally will come to an end this year, I hope. Because it gets old. Yeah, it's newsworthy, and we bring it up because it's Aaron Rodgers. It's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, but one of the great fantasy players to ever play the game, too, back in the old days, back when he was with the Packers. All right, let us move along to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. We appreciate Ken and Jennifer over there. Let's go and move along to our Los Landeros Smooth Move of the Week. It is brought to you by our friends at Los Landeros Tequila. Go beyond as smooth as a Urban Meyer Special Teams play. Our Los Landeros Smooth Move of the Week belongs to Lane Kiffin. I hate to say it out loud, okay? But him bringing Ed Ogeron back on board because, Ed Ogeron can speak the language, which I sometimes don't know what he's saying, but he can speak that language to the Cajuns out there. But he is going to be the assistant, special assistant for recruiting and defense. So he'll lend in on the defense. He'll be out there firing guys up, but he's also going to be a big part of. Now he is a great recruiter. Bruce Feldman wrote the great book. Was it Meat Market? Was that the name of it? But it was really good. I read it about spending a year with Ogeron, and so Coach O is back. He won a national title there. Then they fired him. Now he's back at LSU. It is just. LSU is the weirdest place in the world. It is so weird there. Just bizarre. Anyway, I've got more to say about Louisiana State University. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. Let us go ahead and move along to our BMI TeleMed Smart Move of the Week. BMI TeleMed. 727-383-1677. Achieve and maintain with your weight loss specialist. It'll work. It worked for me. It'll work for you. Give them a call and you'll get a discount on your order. Say you listen to the podcast. All right. Our BMI TeleMed Smart Move of the Week was the judge in, of all places, Lubbock, Texas. And when we saw this thing with Brendan Sorsby break and he sued the NCAA, and you're like, oh, there's going to be a judge. He's going to be from Lubbock, and they're going to file the suit there, and he's going to say, yeah, he's eligible. I don't care if you bet on his team and bet hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't care. You knew that was going to happen. No, it did not happen because that judge has recused himself, even though he grew up in Lubbock. And I think that is a smart move because look, the judge in Alabama that let Betty Yako play, that was crooked. I mean, there's just some crooked stuff out here with these judges because they are boosters. So yeah, they're going to rule. They're not going to rule with the law. And I think this was going to be the hard thing for this judge, who may have been a not crooked judge, and may have said, look, there is no way I can make this guy eligible. However, if I don't, I have to live and love it. So he recused himself. They brought a guy in who has no ties to the school and will give a fair ruling. There is no way Brendan Sorsby should be eligible. He might be. We'll see. And it's such a mess right now. It is. All right, that's our BMI TeleMed Smart Move of the Week. Let us move along to this, that, and the other.
What do you want? This, that, and the other.
Okay, this, that, and the other, as always, is brought to you by Notary Joe. Notary Joe will come right to your house. Joseph Newton will take care of all your notary needs if you give him a call. We appreciate Joseph Newton. It is brought to you by Darshackow Insurance. For all your home, auto, commercial, and life needs, the place to go is Darshackow Insurance. And it is brought to you by the Atlanta Hustle, the Southeast Ultimate Frisbee Team. Their season is starting, and you can get tickets. They're still available. Just go online, and you can just type in Atlanta Hustle, and you will find an option to buy tickets. Brought to you by Learner Law. Appreciate Learner Law, where you go for all of your needs when it comes to closing time. All right. This on this, that, and the other is that when Will Wade got fired, I was so happy. I really don't like the guy in any way. I know that, and I listened to a podcast yesterday that a part of it, well, mainly because Todd Gold was on it, but I listened to this podcast that Jeff Goodman, who we've had on this podcast, and Rob Doster do, the Field of 68. It's a great podcast. Boy, they cuss a lot on that podcast. Well, at least Jeff does. And he was cussing about Will Wade. But let's get to the point here. So I was glad he got fired. And then right away, he's at McNeese, gets them to the tournament. Then he gets a job at NC State. And you're like, oh, it's like no matter what you do, you're going to get a job eventually if you know how to win. And you may want to cheat and everything. And he cheated terribly. And again, I don't like the guy. My dealings with him in press conferences, I just kind of came away shaking my head. Like, he's just a big phony. So that, of course, is that back in the SEC, back at LSU, where they forgive him. He didn't do anything wrong. He was cheating, but everybody cheats. We want him back here because he won games. Now we can't win with this other guy who does it the right way, but he can't win any games. And so he comes back to LSU, and we start making fun of him. And oh my gosh, what do you got? You got Kiffin, you got Will Wade, you got Kim Mulkey. 3 headaches in one. We knew some things were going to get shaken up. Okay. And that is the other, which is the story about what he's doing is building a roster with a bunch of kids, either overseas kids or G League guys. One of them's 26 years old, and coaches are up in arms about it. They're really angry about it. And that plays into what I want to talk about, which is the meetings in Destin next week are going to be something, because you've got the Kiffin versus Ole Miss saga, and then you've got Will Wade versus all of college basketball, because that's the thing Jeff Goodman was saying. I think he made a great point, and I agree with him. Stand up for your profession and don't be, at some point you can't just put winning ahead of everything. No matter how you do it, at some point. Now, he made a couple of good suggestions, and I think these are good. And one would be for the NCAA to grow a pair and say, hey, look, if you play this guy, we're not clearing him. Any game you play in, consider it a loss when it comes tournament time. Okay? I think that would be a great way. Or he made another one. If all the Power 4 coaches say, we're not scheduling you. We're not scheduling because we don't believe in the way you're doing things. Now, I don't know that would happen because there's other coaches out there that are doing it. One of them being Alabama, but they've got to schedule. They have no choice. So we'll see what all happens there. But it is really a mess. college sports is really a mess. We all know that. We're trying to figure out, and the Iowa State AD coming out this week and also blasting the SEC and the Big Ten, saying, "Hey, break away, go ahead. We don't care. Break away and have your own thing. But when you want to go play the softball thing, you're not. It's just you. It's not a national championship." Everybody's getting mad at everybody, and nobody is looking out for the game. Nobody. There's not one person. Maybe me. Maybe you. All of you who listen. You care about sports. You care about the game. You care about what happens. But nobody else does. All right. That is our this, that, and the other for today. Let's move along to our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week. Sponge of the Week brought to you by our friends at Gallo Car Wash, where we get all of our cars washed. One of them's in the shop right now, so we can't get it washed, but we'll get it washed eventually. Let us pick our Sponge of the Week, and we're going to make it a guy who knows how to soak up a lot of hot dogs. And that is Joey Chestnut, who will participate in the 4th of July Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest, which is unwatchable in my opinion, but I love hot dogs. I'm a big hot dog guy. But he will do it under probation. He'll be on probation. He pleaded I can't remember what he pleaded. He pleaded something. But he got a plea deal. He slapped a guy in a bar. And you can't do that. I'm sorry. But you're going to get a plea deal, and you're just going to be on probation. Don't do anything stupid again, like Rashee Rice. If I was the Chiefs, and I know how they value him, I would have cut him a long time ago, but I would cut him now for sure. That's a different story. Anyway, Joey Chestnut is our Sponge of the Week, and who knows how many hot dogs he's going to eat. 17 times he's won the contest. How about that? I cannot think what his cholesterol is. Anyway, let us move along to our Adams Rib Co. Gator of the Week, brought to you by our friends at Adams Rib, where you can go there tomorrow on Friday and get Nana's Nuggets, man. They are the best. Of course, all the barbecue stuff is tremendous there. And was there in the last week. I'm going to probably go there again tomorrow. Have some Nana's Nuggets. Last night we made some chicken of our own and put the Adams hot sauce or the Adams barbecue hot sauce on it. Oh, it made it. It made it, as it always does. Appreciate Adam. All right. Our Gator of the Week is Luke Poulter, who won the tournament and the regional up in Columbus, Ohio. Shot even par, which that tells you how, of course, that's the best score. Now, a lot of Gators were up there competing with him, and that's pretty much all it was, because this regional wasn't. I guess you get a good regional when you're a 2 seed, but it certainly was. He played really well, and I know JC's comments afterwards saying we knew he was about to break through. It's a good time to be hot. It's a good time to be playing well, and I think all these guys. This could be a team that wins it all. I sure hope they do. I'm going to be rooting for them, but again, the SEC gives you enough competition. Then you add in other schools, So we'll see how it all goes for them. But Luke Poulter is our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. Let us move along to our Leonardos at Millhopper. Quick pick. I'm going to give you a very simple one this week. See if you can get some more qualifiers in there. And, of course, everybody is competing for $25 at Leonardo's of Millhopper. And I know that we're excited about everything that they're doing there. And we will throw in a second prize, too, and I will offer you different things, gift certificates, a copy of a book, hats. There's going to be a lot of different things you can take a option on for the second prize. The smaller it is, the easier it is to mail, but I'm not asking anybody to do that. So here's our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick pick for today, and that is just Florida softball. They play tomorrow, so you don't have much time to get it in. But that's what I want to do is Florida softball, and all you have to do is say Florida softball wins 0, 1, or 2 games. They can't win 3. 0-1 or 2 games in this series against Texas Tech, so it's not hard. Math is, I know, not the strong suit of some of you, but you should be okay on 0-1 or 2. And we appreciate that softball team. Well, I'm hoping they can show me something. And that would be, I remember the last time I said they weren't going to go to Oklahoma State. They did. But that was when they had to go on the road. So definitely home field advantage will help this weekend. That's our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick pick. Let's wrap it up as we always do with our Swamp Games of the Weekend, brought to you by the Swamp Restaurant. All the great drink specials, all the great food specials you can possibly want out there at the Swamp. And, of course, plenty of TVs so you can watch all these great events that we're going to list. Now, we don't have them all here. Obviously, it would take too long. But we'll start with baseball. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Gator baseball game got moved up to 4:30-ish because of weather that's going through Hoover. So 4:30, and that is on the SEC network. And then we'll just see how it all works out, whether they keep playing or not. But you guys know most of it's on the SEC network, and then I think it's just over to ESPN on the weekend. Monday, by the way, at noon on. I don't think I wrote down the selection show. I think it's on ESPN2, to be honest with you, on Monday for baseball, or it may be on ESPN. Softball Friday, 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. Another early game. ESPN2 is where it's going to be able to be watched. And then Saturday they've got a 12:30 game, and it'll be on ABC. That is going to be a cool thing. The ladies play on ABC in Gainesville, so that'll be fun. And you're going to get the number one crew down here too. Texas Tech fans are already mad because they're afraid that it's going to be SEC bias. Of course it is. There's 9 teams out of the 16 are from the SEC in the regional. Or super regional, sorry. Yeah, there's bias because it's the best conference. It doesn't mean they have the best team. Maybe it is Texas again. Maybe it's Texas Tech. I don't know. We'll see. Calm down. And then Sunday, you have no idea when the game's going to be played, if there is a game. If there's a game 3, could be early, could be late. Depends on what's going on. Depends on what, and the channel you have to wait on too. Let's go to the NBA. Tonight at 8 o'clock, Cleveland at New York. That is on ESPN. Of course, New York up 1-0 in that series. Friday, OKC at San Antonio. That series is now tied. It's at 8:30 on NBC. Then Saturday, New York, Cleveland at 8 on ABC. Sunday, Oklahoma City plays at San Antonio at 8 on NBC. So, you know where the games are. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a fun weekend if you really like softball and baseball and I think a lot depends on whether Florida stays in the SEC tournament because, to be honest with you, I watched a lot of the games early, but once they got to that point, I was like, if the Gators got knocked out, I go, I don't care. Yeah, I wouldn't. I guess I could watch an LSU game and root against them, but they may be out by then anyway. All right, that's going to do it for another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Another Thursday in the books. Thanks to Zach Rothrock for doing a great job. Hopefully his niece, Keegan Rothrock, it's a joke, will pitch well this weekend. But Zach always does a great job. And we'll be back with another show Monday when Coach Spurrier joins us. Can't wait to see we can talk to him then about the Morgan Wallen thing and about the going into the Hall of Fame at South Carolina and all that. We'll talk to him about all that stuff. Maybe even go back to the PGA because we didn't get to talk to him about it before. But anyway, we'll be back on Monday. Until then, I am Pat Dooley. I am deep, I am way back, and I am out of here.